All right, in this video, I'm going to cover the airline and travel stocks. We're going to do technical analysis around these and see if there's anything going on worth noting. These are obviously exploding higher today on some COVID news. Again, it's a headline. I didn't see anything in the charts, so we're going to go ahead and look and see what we got going on. All right, starting out here with Southwest Airlines. What we have here is obviously a move higher, but you can see the move today. Just to point out what's going on, they've been selling into it all day. So it opened, gapped up way up here, and they've sold into it. It's down already 9% from where it opened. So the sellers have been taking profit, and that's something to just note. If you look at the daily, there is, if it turns down anytime soon, there will be negative divergence. And in fact, I mean, there's negative divergence right now. You can see here, let me go ahead and get rid of this line. You've got negative divergence here. It's just not confirmed yet. Usually you like to see some sort of a turn down in the RSI to confirm. But we are making a higher price on less momentum. So there is negative divergence. It just needs to confirm, because if these continue to run higher and the momentum continues to build, you can burn through those negative divergences and it might look something like that. But as of right now, still intact. And it's really been intact since right here. You can see this high right here on Love was a divergent high. Momentum was less than previous, than this high right here. So here's your high in momentum. Then you made a new slightly higher high and a lower high in momentum. Now you're making a new high in price and a lower high in momentum. So negative divergence is there. You just want to see this continue, the RSI start to turn down to confirm that. That gives you, what we would be looking for is some sort of a break in trend. Probably something like this. I'd say that's your trend line. So we'll be watching this, but to me, this doesn't look like a bullish setup. Even though the thing's up 12%, it's being sold into. It's up 12% today. Doesn't mean it's going to be up 12% in a week, is what I'm pointing out. So yeah, if you were long this thing and you're, caught the move up today, you can take some profit into that. But nothing says that because it's up 12% today that it's going to be up 12% in a week. And in fact, I see the opposite. Let's look at Delta. I think that's DAL. So I've had this one kind of marked out in the past. Yeah, we'll leave this. This looks like a breakout, but we'll see how it ends up closing. On the daily, it's probably the same picture. No, there's no negative divergence there. If we turn down anytime soon, I mean, we do have negative divergence right now. So we didn't have it in the past. You can see here, here's the peak in the RSI. Here's your price. Then you made another peak right here, and you made a lower price with a lower momentum. So that's not a divergent. It's lower momentum, lower price. That's doing what this is expected. But now we have a slightly higher momentum, a higher price. So you'd want to see this turn down, the RSI start to turn down, and then that would mean that this was a divergent high. If it continues higher, it will burn through it. So again, you kind of have to wait. The PPO is starting to make a crossover here, so kind of have to wait to see what happens before I can signal that this is, what's going on this one. Let's look at Marriott hotels. So on Marriott, we've got, I've got this trend line here. Yeah, it's kind of getting choppy. It's not the cleanest trend line, so we can mark it out something like this. Maybe that's what it is. I'm not super confident on this trend line. So you've got this trend line right here, broke down once before, broke down again, recovered it. It's chopping all around. On the daily, we have about an equal high in momentum, and it's pointed up, and we have a new divergent high. So if the momentum turns down, then that would potentially be a negative divergence. But if it continues much higher from here, let's say we hold right in here and continue to move higher, we're going to burn through that what potential negative divergence was there. And, in general, that would be bullish for this one. Let's look at this Hilton Grand Vacations. You've got kind of a trend line right about here. You have, there is no negative divergence really intact. And you didn't really have any bullish divergence on the daily. If we go to the hourly here, you can see we did have some bullish divergence right there on the hourly. So that was back there. The trade's played out now. But in general, this thing doesn't look bearish. It looks bullish, although I think it's, kind of gotten away from itself today. So maybe on a pullback, there might be an opportunity there. Pullback possibly to this, somewhere right in here. It's about right there, 23.30-ish. That's how that one looks. Let's look here at Carnival Cruise Lines. I've had this one kind of marked out for a while. There's resistance. Support is right in there. Now we had a false breakdown right here, and that was a bear trap, and then it gapped up right to resistance. So it is at resistance though, and it has held, resistance is holding as of right now. So this is not a breakout above resistance. In fact, this might be an opportunity to short. Let's look though. I mean, this thing's up 36% today. So obviously a huge trade. Let's look at the hourly. Yeah, I don't see any bearish divergence on the hourly. Let's look at the daily. Yeah, I mean, there's potential bearish divergence coming back all the way to the highs here, but yeah, there's still momentum to the upside. So in general, it's bullish, but it's below resistance. I would say we'd need to see a breakout above this 1930, about 1930, see a close above there. That would probably be the trigger. But as of right now, obviously it's kind of knocking on the door of that resistance. Hasn't broken out though, so still holding. Let's look at Boeing here. Boeing on the daily, you can see downtrend line right here. That's a clear breakout as of today on the daily chart. It's impulsive, and it is a breakout of resistance. So that is a buy signal essentially. Let's look at the daily and see how we look. Yeah, there's slight divergence, bullish divergence that was intact right there. So this was a divergent low, telling you that a bullish setup was coming, and then you get the breakout today. It's a pretty impulsive breakout though, so ideally we would come back and see a back test of this trend line, and that would be your objective area to go long. If I look at the hourly here, yeah, you can see the divergence that was building right there. There's your bullish divergence on the hourly, and we were still making negative prices there. So there's your divergence telling you trend reversal is imminent, but you got to wait for a break of resistance, resistance basically, and that came today. So there's your breakout today. That's bullish. It's up there a ways. I would prefer, it gapped way up here. I'd prefer to see a back test of this trend line for an objective area to enter or to add. Okay, so obviously I think there's some that are bullish of these travel stocks, and there's some that are not quite there. Obviously there's positive momentum today, so we'll see if there's any follow through. The way I'm playing this is I'm shorting a lot of these high-flying tech stocks, these things that just got out of control. So we'll go into those now and just give you guys an update on what I see on these things. Here's McDonald's. Not necessarily a COVID stock, but it is a stay-at-home stock because you're not going to the restaurants, you're going to McDonald's drive-thru. That's essentially the play. So you can see big sell-off today. They did recover. Here's the daily. we've got a big sell-off right now, and we've got support right here at 213.47. We undercut it briefly, headed almost down to my final target at 202. They stepped in at 206.85 and bid it back up above the resistance. So I covered this. I know I move quick, and I can't put out videos saying all the moves that I'm doing at the moment that I'm doing them. But if you have the levels, you can react and see what's going on. So take my trading course and my technical analysis course. It'll help you find the levels so that you can make plays without me having to like tail me. But you can see right there that is holding a support 213.40. So I covered that. Again, I got short right at the breakdown up here, 220.89. Covered it basically as it started to recover. Next, Peloton. This one I think is just getting started to the downside. However, we're recovering today. What I'd really like to see in this, to give you the most objective short, right now it's a short, okay? That's because it broke its support line. So here's the support line, and it broke that. It's just a matter of getting a good position on the short, because they can whip you out and give you all kinds of fake signals. So ideally you want to get a good entry to mitigate your risk. So you have a breakdown of support line, of trend line support. Now, if you can get a back test, that's an objective area to start or add to a position, a short position. And ideally, if you get a back test that comes all the way up here above this all-time high right there, that would be the most objective area to short this thing. You wouldn't want to be long this because you've broken trendline support. So yeah, even if they do a back test all the way up there, it's low reward. There's a high probability that is the rest of the move that will be, and then you'll have a big downside move. So I'd rather be looking at building a short position on this thing now, and I'm just looking for good entries. Ideally, I'd like, if it did a broke to an all-time new high, but from below this trend line right here, that would probably give you that negative divergence on the daily chart. Maybe it looks something like that. So that would be your best setup. Doesn't mean you're going to get it, but that would definitely be your best setup. I'm probably looking to build or start a position on back test of this trend line with, and really looking at hitting it if it gets up here. BBY, Best Buy. So I took a trade on this last week, got stopped out for a small loss. I adjusted my trend line down to here. So I think we're heading down to that trend line. Pretty impulsive selling today, but we haven't broken trend line support yet. We do have a bearish rising wedge intact, and we have negative divergence. So everything's there for that breakdown. The only thing we're missing is the break of the trend line right here. So I'm waiting for that. Chewy, here's your trend line, negative divergence on the daily right there. Just waiting for the break of the trend line. We haven't got it. Today they ran it all the way down and tagged trend line support, and it's held so far. So we're just waiting for that impulsive breakdown. Again, impulsive breakdowns usually come in the form of like gap downs or, some sort of impulsive move intraday. You'll see it when you know it, but we haven't gotten it yet on this one. All right, Redfin here. So last week, if you were following along, I told everyone in a video I was getting short right up here, which was a back test of trendline resistance. So here's Redfin. Here's what you got going on. Here's your March lows. You had the big uptrend line. All right, we broke that trend line and created the secondary trend line right here. In the meantime, we continued to build negative divergence on the daily chart. See this big negative divergence? All this price action was divergent highs, and that's why the momentum was really starting to fade. You have strong momentum here and then weak momentum here, just inching out new highs. So people that don't realize what's going on, they see higher and higher prices and they feel good. They don't get out of their position. They stay long. But then you get the break of trend here. So we caught this short. You get the back test right up to resistance. That's the objective area to get short. And that's where I got short. And then you get the continuation of the downside. So trend is now down. And that's why I'm obviously short. looking for, all the way down here to 31.45. Guys, take the trading course, take the technical analysis course in my description below. If you want to learn how to get in on these trades, I'm charging $99.99. This trade right here, is up by 15% in literally just 3 days. So easily would have paid for the course and probably a lot more. So again, it's in the description below. Zoom. All right. Did exactly what I was talking about. I had been mentioning this for weeks, basically, that we were trading above this price channel. Here's your price channel right here. All right. We got above it. That's a low probability area to be at. We then started to build, and all this price action up here was divergent highs. We put in negative divergence, telling me that we had a high probability of failing. We then broke trendline support, and once we got back into the price channel, I said we're most likely highest probability going to the bottom of the price channel. And that's what we did today. So you can see gap down, sell off right to the bottom of the price channel. They stepped in a little bit early, but for the most part, that's a hit of the bottom of the price channel. So I covered my short in Zoom on that tag of that price of that support. Now we wait to see if we break the price channel. So there's nothing to do on this anymore until we get an impulsive breakdown of the bottom of the price channel. If we get a breakdown, an impulsive breakdown, then most likely Zoom is going to create a new downtrend, and we should see some pretty heavy selling in this thing, as everybody who's been momentum trading it runs for the hills as fast as they can. SQ daily chart, negative divergence has been building for quite some time. Most of these high-flying stay-at-home tech stocks have this negative divergence that's been building. So it's telling you that the momentum is about to shift, and when these are momentum stocks, so when it shifts, look for big selling, a lot of selling pressure. This price action here recently was a divergent high. You made a new higher price right up in here on Friday on lower momentum. So then you go to the hourly and you look for a break of support. Here's your hourly right here. And I actually took a starting short on Friday because it was a divergent high, and I saw signs that this was going to sell off across other stocks that are, these momentum stocks. So I took a starting short on Friday, but we're still at support on the hourly. So now we look for an impulsive break of this, and that sets this thing up for a move on the daily chart, probably back down to this 134.65. And here is Sunrun, just to wrap up for today. We've got rejection right at resistance. And you can see here, negative divergence has been building in this thing. This thing's up huge, and we've got negative divergence. Here's your trendline support right there. And we broke. We did a back test, a couple days of back testing. You can see back test here, and today they looked like they did all, kind of did a back test, but now the selling's starting to come in. We'll see how this closes, but if it closes like this, then that's going to be a bearish engulfing outside day candle. So here's an outside day where you're encapsulating or kind of encompassing the previous day, and really, in fact, the previous 2 days. That's a bearish reversal candle. So we look for confirmation on the next candle. So if you get more selling, then that's pretty bearish. And ultimately, I see this thing heading down to 44.65 and 36.37. And then, and then also 23.39. So potential for this one to drop quite a bit. My final target, if it hits that, is about a 57% drop. And we're going to wrap up here, guys. Leave me a thumbs up if you find value. Let me know if you made any money today. Personally, I did very well. A lot of these trades that we're setting up in the last few weeks are now working out. And that's kind of how it goes. On the big days, usually, I'm not taking positions typically on the big days. I'm usually taking profit, or or my trades are working out, basically, and starting to confirm. So that's usually how it works. And I'm short a lot of these tech stocks, and things are working out. Even though the Dow is up 1,000 points, There's a lot of things that are selling off, so we'll watch that. Thanks, guys. Catch you on the next one.